Hey guys, welcome back to the Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People's Story. I'm a 48-year-old homeowner who's lived in my suburban neighborhood for about 5 years now. My house came with what I thought was a straightforward situation. A shared driveway with the neighboring property, plus a small strip of land beside it that technically belongs to me according to the deed. The previous neighbors understood this arrangement and we never had any issues. They'd occasionally use that strip for guest parking during big gatherings, but they always asked first and were respectful about it. Everything changed when the previous neighbors moved out and the new neighbor arrived about 18 months ago. Let's call her Karen, not her real name, obviously. From day one, there was something off about her. When she moved in, I tried to be welcoming. I brought over a batch of homemade cookies and offered to help with some boxes, but she barely acknowledged me. She just took the cookies with a curt thanks and shut the door in my face. I figured maybe she was just tired from moving, but that cold attitude never improved. Within the first week, I noticed her parking her brand new luxury SUV on my strip of land. At first, I didn't make a big deal out of it. Maybe she didn't know the property lines yet, so I decided to have a friendly chat with her about it. "Hey there," I said when I caught her outside one day. "I just wanted to let you know that strip next to the driveway is actually part of my property. I don't mind if you need to use it occasionally, but I'd appreciate if you could ask first." The look she gave me was like I'd suggested something ridiculous. "Everyone parks there," she said dismissively. "The previous owners never had an issue with it. It's basically a community area at this point." "Well, it's actually not," I tried to explain. "If you check the property survey..." She cut me off with a wave of her hand. "Look, I've lived in much nicer neighborhoods than this. I know how these things work. Maybe you should be more community-minded." And with that, she turned and walked away. I was stunned, but decided not to push it that day. Maybe she'd come around. She didn't. Instead, she continued parking there daily, sometimes even blocking part of the shared driveway access. I left polite notes that were ignored. I tried to catch her for conversations that she'd brush off. This went on for months, and honestly, I was torn between standing my ground and not wanting to create neighborhood drama. Then came the night that changed everything. My father, who's 78 and has a heart condition, had been staying with me while recovering from a minor procedure. Around 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of him calling for help. He was having chest pains that were rapidly getting worse. I called 911 immediately, and they dispatched an ambulance. When the ambulance arrived just minutes later, they couldn't properly access my house because Karen's SUV was partially blocking the driveway. It was winter. We'd had a light snow the day before, and the paramedics had to wheel the stretcher a much longer distance around her vehicle, navigating icy patches in the dark. One paramedic nearly slipped while carrying equipment. Those extra minutes felt like hours as my father struggled to breathe. Thankfully, they got him to the hospital in time, and he survived what turned out to be a minor heart attack. But his doctor made it very clear that in these situations, every minute counts. Those wasted minutes navigating around Karen's SUV could have had catastrophic consequences. The next day, after confirming my father was stable, I returned home determined to resolve this situation once and for all. I knocked on Karen's door, survey documents in hand. "Your car blocking the driveway delayed the ambulance for my father last night," I explained, trying to keep my voice level. "He had a heart attack. The paramedics had trouble getting their equipment to my house because of where you parked." Instead of showing any concern, she looked annoyed at being bothered. "I park where I've always parked. It's not my fault if the ambulance drivers aren't competent enough to navigate a driveway." I was speechless for a moment. "This is the property survey," I finally said, extending the papers. "This clearly shows the land belongs to me." She barely glanced at them. "That's not the real survey. I've seen the actual documents. Besides, I've been using that space regularly, which basically makes it mine now." "That's not how property law works," I said. She smirked. "Possession is 9/10 of the law. Look it up. My brother-in-law is a lawyer, and he can confirm it. I'll have him contact you if you keep harassing me about this." After that conversation, things escalated quickly. Karen seemed to take my confrontation as a personal challenge. She began parking not just one but sometimes 2 vehicles on my strip of land. She invited friends over who would also park there. One morning I came out to find she had actually planted decorative bushes on the contested strip without asking. When I questioned her about the plantings, she simply said, "I'm improving the neighborhood aesthetic. You should be thanking me." It got worse. She started telling other neighbors that I was being unreasonable, that I was trying to claim land that had always been communal space. Some neighbors who didn't know the full story began to give me cold shoulders. Her teenage kids started using my property as a hangout spot, leaving behind soda cans and snack wrappers. After 2 weeks of this escalating behavior, I knew I needed to take action. I contacted a real estate attorney who specialized in property disputes. He confirmed what I already knew. The land was 100% mine according to the deed, but he also helped me develop a methodical plan to reclaim it properly. First, I installed security cameras that covered my property, including the disputed strip. Within days, I had footage of Karen planting more bushes, her kids lounging on my property, and her repeatedly parking there despite my requests. Next, I hired a professional surveyor to come out and mark the exact property lines with stakes and bright markers. Karen came out during this process and tried to tell the surveyor he was wrong. The surveyor, used to these types of disputes, simply showed her the official documents and continued his work. The attorney then helped me draft a formal cease and desist letter, which I sent via certified mail requiring a signature. The letter clearly outlined the property boundaries, detailed the ambulance incident, and gave her 14 days to remove her plantings and stop trespassing. Karen signed for the letter but totally ignored its contents. In fact, she seemed to increase her encroachment, now placing garden gnomes and solar lights along with the bushes on my property. That's when I filed a police report for trespassing and property damage. The responding officer was sympathetic, but explained that this was largely a civil matter. However, having the report established an official record of the ongoing issue. During this time, I learned through another neighbor that Karen had actually received the correct property information when she purchased her house. She'd known all along that the strip wasn't hers, but had chosen to ignore it and try to claim it through continuous use. I shared this information along with copies of the survey with several neighbors who had been misled by her. Many were surprised and apologized for believing her version of events. After consulting with my attorney again, I decided to install a fence exactly on the property line. I filed for all the proper permits, which were approved within a few weeks. On the day the fence company arrived to begin installation, Karen came charging out of her house like she was ready for battle. "You cannot put a fence here!" she shouted, literally standing in front of the workers. "This is shared property!" The crew foreman tried to explain they had permits and were working within the established property line, but Karen wouldn't budge. She planted herself directly in the work area, pulled out her phone, and called the police herself. "I need officers here immediately," I heard her say. "My neighbor is illegally constructing a fence on community property." When the police arrived, I was ready. I calmly presented the property survey, the deed, the approved permits, and even photos of the ambulance situation from months earlier. The officers reviewed the documents and then approached Karen. "Ma'am, according to these legal documents, this is private property belonging to your neighbor. You're currently trespassing. You need to move so these workers can do their job." Karen couldn't believe what she was hearing. "That's impossible. I've been using this land for over a year. Talk to anyone in the neighborhood. This has always been communal space." "The documentation clearly shows otherwise," the officer replied firmly. "If you don't move voluntarily, we can escort you back to your property." What followed was something I never expected to witness. Karen had a complete meltdown right there in front of everyone. She screamed about her rights, threatened lawsuits against me, the police, and the fence company, and insisted that the real documents would prove her right. The officers remained calm but firm, and eventually she stormed back to her house, slamming the door so hard I thought the glass might shatter. The fence was completed within 2 days, a nice, sturdy privacy fence that clearly defined my property line. Karen was forced to remove her plantings from my land, and in her anger and haste, she damaged most of them beyond saving. The aftermath was surprisingly positive. With the fence in place, I regained full use of my property. Several neighbors came by to apologize for believing Karen's version of events. One elderly couple even brought me a homemade pie and admitted they'd been intimidated by Karen's aggressive personality. About a month after the fence went up, I noticed a for sale sign in front of Karen's house. Apparently, she'd decided to move rather than live next to the fence that reminded her of her defeat. On moving day, there was a beautiful moment of karma. Her moving truck couldn't fit properly in her narrow driveway without access to my strip of land. The movers had to park on the street and carry everything a much longer distance, resulting in additional hours and charges. After Karen left, a lovely young couple moved in, both of them healthcare workers coincidentally. When I told them about the ambulance incident during our first conversation, they were horrified and completely understood why the fence was so important. Last weekend, I hosted a neighborhood barbecue in my backyard, including the reclaimed strip that now has a beautiful patio where Karen's random bushes once stood. Even my new neighbors attended. As we enjoyed good food and conversation, my father, now fully recovered, raised a toast to good neighbors and clear boundaries. Sometimes standing your ground isn't just about principle, it can be a matter of life and death. I'm just thankful I took action before there was another emergency that could have had a much worse outcome. The next one is an entitled people's story. I've never been lucky. At least that's what I always thought until 6 months ago. I'm just your average guy working at an accounting firm, making decent money, but nothing spectacular. My wife and I have been saving for a house down payment for years, but with the market these days, it felt like we'd never get there. I don't usually buy lottery tickets. I consider myself too practical for that sort of thing. But that day, I had this weird feeling. I'd just gotten a small bonus at work, nothing fancy, just $200 for completing a difficult project ahead of schedule. On my way home, I stopped at the gas station to fill up my car. When I went inside to pay, I saw the Mega Millions sign showing $86 million. On a whim, I decided to spend $10 on tickets. The cashier handed me my tickets, and I stuffed them in my wallet without much thought. I didn't even bother checking the numbers that night. Actually, I completely forgot about them for 3 days. It wasn't until the following Monday morning when I was getting coffee at my usual spot before work that I remembered the tickets. I pulled out my wallet to pay for my coffee and noticed them tucked behind my credit card. I figured I might as well check them while waiting for my order. I pulled out my phone and looked up the winning numbers. As I checked each ticket, I felt my heart start to race. The numbers on my last ticket matched. All 6 of them. I double-checked, triple-checked, quadruple-checked. Holy crap. I had just won $86 million. I must have looked like I was having a stroke because the barista asked if I was okay. "Sir, are you all right? You look pale." I could barely speak. "I'm fine, just need some air." I grabbed my coffee with shaking hands and practically ran out of the shop. I needed to think. I needed to call my wife. I needed to not freak out in public. I sat in my car trying to breathe normally. I called my wife, who was still getting ready for her job as a third-grade teacher. "Hey, babe, what's up?" she answered casually. "You need to sit down," I said, my voice trembling. What's wrong? Are you okay?" Panic immediately filled her voice. "I'm fine, better than fine. I just checked those lottery tickets I bought on Friday. And I won. I won the jackpot." Silence. "Hello? Are you there?" I asked. "This isn't funny," she finally said. "I'm not joking. I swear to God I matched all 6 numbers. We just won $86 million. Another long pause. "Holy crap," she whispered. "I know." "Holy crap! I know!" We both started laughing hysterically. It was surreal. We decided I should go straight home so we could figure out what to do next. I called my boss and told him I had a family emergency and wouldn't be in today. Then I drove home like my car was on autopilot. When I got home, my wife and I sat at our kitchen table, staring at the ticket like it might disappear if we looked away. We spent the day researching what to do when you win the lottery. Every article said the same things. Don't tell anyone, get a lawyer, get a financial advisor, and don't make any major life changes right away. We decided to follow that advice. We found a respected law firm that specialized in wealth management and made an appointment for the next day. We didn't tell anyone. Not our parents, not our friends, not a soul. That night, I put the ticket in an envelope and tucked it into my wallet. I barely slept, checking every half hour to make sure it was still there. The next morning, we got ready for our appointment with the lawyer. I was so nervous I changed clothes 3 times. As we were about to leave, I reached for my wallet and felt my heart drop to my stomach. The envelope with the ticket wasn't there. I emptied my wallet. Nothing. I checked all my pockets. Nothing. I retraced my steps through the house, looking everywhere. Still nothing. "It has to be here," I said, trying not to panic. "I know I put it in my wallet last night. My wife helped me search, but after an hour we had to face the terrible truth. The ticket was gone." "When's the last time you remember having it for sure?" she asked, trying to stay calm. "Last night when we were sitting at the kitchen table. I put it in the envelope, then into my wallet." "And you didn't take it out after that?" "No, I swear I didn't." "Did you go anywhere this morning?" Then it hit me. "I went to get coffee at the corner store. Maybe it fell out there." We rushed to the store, a little corner bodega about 2 blocks from our apartment. I frantically asked the guy behind the counter, Marco, if anyone had turned in a lottery ticket. "Sorry, man," Marco said, shaking his head. "Nothing like that today." I felt sick. $86 million. Gone. Just like that. My wife suggested we check the sidewalk between our apartment and the store. We scoured every inch of pavement, looking for that small piece of paper that had briefly changed our lives. Nothing. We went back home devastated. I called the lottery commission to see what could be done. The representative was sympathetic but clear. Without the physical ticket, there was no way to claim the prize. She suggested I file a police report, but warned me that it was unlikely to help without proof that I was the original purchaser. I was about to hang up when she mentioned something interesting. "You said you purchased the ticket at a gas station, correct? Which one was it?" I told her. "And do you remember what time you bought it?" I thought back. Around 6:30 p.m. on Friday. Well, most gas stations have security cameras. If you can get footage of yourself purchasing the ticket, that might help your case. It was a long shot, but it was all we had. I immediately called the gas station and explained the situation to the manager. He was reluctant at first, but when I mentioned the amount of the jackpot, he agreed to check the footage. "Come by in an hour," he said. "I'll see what I can find." We showed up exactly an hour later. The manager, a middle-aged guy named Dave, led us to a tiny back office and showed us the security footage. There I was, clearly visible, buying the tickets at exactly 6:37 p.m. on Friday. You could even see the terminal printing them out and the cashier handing them to me. "Can I get a copy of this?" I asked. Dave burned it onto a DVD for me. It wasn't much, but it was something. I filed a police report that afternoon, including the information about the security footage. The officer wasn't optimistic, but said they'd look into it. For the next few days, my wife and I were in a daze. We'd been so close to changing our lives forever, and now it was gone. I kept checking my wallet, hoping the ticket would magically reappear. It didn't. A week passed. I was trying to come to terms with our loss when I got a call from an unknown number. "Hello?" I answered. "Yes. Is this the man who lost a lottery ticket?" a female voice asked. My heart skipped a beat. "Yes, that's me. I think I found it. It was on the sidewalk near the corner store." I could hardly believe it. "That's amazing. Are you sure it's mine?" "Well, it's a Mega Millions ticket for last Friday's drawing. Is that right?" "Yes, that's right." I felt hope surging through me. "Great. I'd be happy to return it to you. Maybe we could meet somewhere?" "Absolutely. How about the coffee shop on Main Street in an hour?" "Perfect. See you then." I hung up and immediately called my wife, who was teaching. She couldn't answer, so I left her a voicemail with the incredible news. An hour later, I was sitting in the coffee shop, nervously tapping my foot. A woman walked in, mid-30s, professionally dressed, with long brown hair. She scanned the room, then approached my table. "Are you the lottery ticket guy?" she asked with a smile. "That's me," I said, standing up to shake her hand. "Thank you so much for calling. You have no idea what this means to me." She sat down across from me. "I'm glad I could help. I found it just lying on the sidewalk. When I checked the numbers and saw it was a winner, I knew someone must be looking for it." "You checked the numbers?" I asked, a slight alarm bell ringing in my head. "Of course," she said, laughing lightly. "Wouldn't you? It's not every day you find a lottery ticket on the ground." Something felt off, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. "So you have the ticket with you?" Her smile faltered slightly. "Well, yes and no. I have it, but I didn't bring it with me." "Oh, why not?" She leaned forward. "Look, I'm going to be straight with you. That ticket is worth a lot of money. I know, it's the jackpot." "Exactly. And finders keepers is a real thing, you know. Legally, I could just claim that money myself. And there it was. I felt my hope deflating like a punctured balloon. "But you called me," I said. "You offered to return it." "I did, and I will. I just think I deserve a finder's fee. A substantial one." "How substantial?" She met my eyes directly. "Half." I nearly choked. "Half? Half of $86 million? Are you serious?" "Deadly serious. Half, or I walk away right now and cash that ticket myself." "But it's my ticket. I bought it. I have proof." She shrugged. "Prove it." "Oh wait, you can't. Not without the physical ticket, which I have." My mind was racing. I needed to stall. "Can I at least see the ticket to verify it's mine?" "Nice try," she said, smirking. "I'm not stupid. We make a deal first, then you get to see the ticket." "I need to think about this," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Don't think too long. I'm giving you 24 hours to decide. Half of something is better than all of nothing, right?" She stood up. "Call me when you've made up your mind." She handed me a business card and walked out. I looked down at the card. Nicole Turner, financial consultant. My hands were shaking. I immediately called my wife, who had just gotten my voicemail. "What? Someone found it? That's amazing!" she exclaimed. "Not exactly," I replied, and explained the situation. "That's extortion," she said angrily. "We need to call the police." "And tell them what? We have no proof the ticket is mine without seeing it, and she won't show it to me until I agree to her terms. But we have the security footage of you buying it. That just proves I bought a ticket, not that this is the specific one she has. For all we know, she might not even have a winning ticket." We were at an impasse. $43 million was still life-changing money, but the idea of this woman blackmailing us made my blood boil. It wasn't right, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. That's when an idea hit me. "I think I know what to do," I told my wife, "but I'm going to need help." I called Marco at the corner store first. He remembered me and was sympathetic to my situation. Then I called Dave from the gas station. Finally, I called the police officer who had taken my report. I explained my plan, and surprisingly, they all agreed to help. The next day, I called Nicole. "I've thought about your offer," I said. "I don't like it, but you're right. Half is better than nothing." "Smart decision," she replied. "Meet me at the same coffee shop at noon. Bring a notarized agreement saying you'll split the winnings with me 50/50ths. I'll be there." At noon, I was sitting in the coffee shop again. Nicole walked in looking smug. She sat down across from me. "Do you have the agreement?" she asked. I slid a document across the table. "Right here. But before I sign it, I need to see the ticket." She hesitated, then reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. She opened it just enough for me to see the ticket inside. From what I could see, it looked like my ticket. The Mega Millions logo was visible, as was the date of the drawing. "Satisfied?" she asked, quickly putting it back in her purse. "Not quite," I said. "I need to verify the numbers." "You can verify them after we sign the agreement." I pretended to think about it. "All right, fine. Let's sign." She smiled triumphantly and took out a pen. As she was about to sign, I gave a small nod. Immediately, Marco from the corner store and Officer Rodriguez, the cop who had taken my report, approached our table. "Is there a problem here?" Officer Rodriguez asked. Nicole looked alarmed. No problem. Just a private business transaction." "Ma'am, we've received information that you may be in possession of stolen property," the officer said. "What? That's ridiculous," Nicole sputtered. "May I see the lottery ticket you were just showing this gentleman? You have no right to—" "Ma'am, I can get a warrant if necessary, but that would mean taking you down to the station." Nicole's face had gone pale. She reluctantly pulled out the envelope and handed it to the officer. Officer Rodriguez examined the ticket, then looked at me. "Is this your ticket, sir?" "I believe so, but I'd need to check the numbers to be certain." He handed me the ticket. I looked at the numbers. 9, 17, 23, 31, 42, 53. These weren't the winning numbers. They weren't even the numbers I had played. "This isn't my ticket," I said, confused. "What?" Nicole practically shrieked. "Of course it is! It's the winning ticket!" Marco stepped forward. "Actually, it's not. The winning numbers for last Friday's Mega Millions were 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. This ticket doesn't match." Nicole was starting to sweat now. "There must be some mistake. I checked the numbers myself." "Did you?" Officer Rodriguez asked skeptically. "Or did you just assume this was the winning ticket because this gentleman lost one?" Nicole was speechless. I decided to play along with my planned confrontation, even though the ticket wasn't mine. "Where did you really find this ticket, Nicole? Because I don't think you found it at all." I, she stammered. "Let me guess," I continued. "You overheard me talking to Marco about losing a winning lottery ticket. You saw an opportunity and decided to try to scam me." Her silence was confirmation enough. "Officer Rodriguez," I said, "I'd like to file a report for attempted fraud." "Wait," Nicole blurted out. "It was just a joke. I never really found your ticket. I just thought, if you were willing to give away half the money, maybe you didn't really need all of it." "So you admit you were trying to scam me?" I pressed. "No. Well, not exactly. Officer Rodriguez had heard enough. "Ma'am, I think you should come down to the station with me to sort this out." As Nicole was being escorted out, looking humiliated, my phone rang. It was my wife. "You'll never believe this," she said, her voice shaking with excitement. "I found the ticket. It was in the pocket of the pants you wore that night. It must have fallen out of your wallet when you hung them up." I felt a wave of relief wash over me. "Are you serious? You have it? The actual winning ticket?" "Yes, I just double-checked the numbers. It's the winner." I couldn't believe it. While I was dealing with a scammer, my wife had found the real ticket. I thanked Marco and rushed home. When I got there, my wife was sitting at the kitchen table, the ticket in a plastic sleeve in front of her. We hugged for what felt like an eternity. "What happened with that woman?" she asked. I told her everything. How Nicole had tried to scam me with a fake ticket. How Marco and Officer Rodriguez had helped me expose her. "So she never had our ticket at all," my wife marveled. "She was just trying to trick you into giving her half of our money." "Exactly. And she would have gotten away with it if I'd agreed to her deal without seeing the ticket first." We called the lawyer we had originally planned to meet with and made a new appointment for the following day. This time, we weren't taking any chances. We made a photocopy of the ticket, took pictures of it, and put the original in a safety deposit box at our bank. The next day, we met with the lawyer, who helped us set up a blind trust to claim the prize anonymously. We opted for the lump sum payment, which after taxes came to about $43 million. We hired a financial advisor to help us invest wisely. As for Nicole, she was charged with attempted fraud. I later learned she had tried similar scams before, targeting people who had lost valuable items. She had never been caught because most people were too embarrassed to report being scammed. In a strange twist of fate, her arrest made the local news. When they mentioned she had tried to scam a lottery winner, several reporters started investigating who the winner might be. Luckily, by then we had already claimed the prize through our trust, so our identities remained secret. We didn't make any sudden changes to our lifestyle. We still haven't told most of our friends or family. We bought a nice but not extravagant house, paid off all our debts, and set up college funds for our future children. We both quit our jobs, but we've been careful about how we explained our newfound financial freedom. As far as most people know, I started a successful online business that allows us to work from home. Sometimes I think about how differently things could have turned out. If Nicole had actually found my ticket, or if she had been more convincing, or if my wife hadn't found the real ticket when she did, but in the end, everything worked out. The scammer got what she deserved, and we got our happily ever after. Oh, and I still buy lottery tickets occasionally. Not because I need the money, but because it reminds me of how our lives changed. Sometimes lightning does strike twice, but even if it doesn't, I've already been luckier than I ever thought possible. The next one is a malicious compliances story. A few months ago, a new business investor at work came on board as a manager, and he has been an absolute hard-ass. He is cracking down on anything he considers to be a waste of time, and he is unforgiving. After a week of watching us work, he and the other managers held a company-wide meeting to iron out some wrinkles in the company that he observed since he started. It wasn't an open dialogue, though. In fact, that's one of the things he wanted to wrinkle out. It was essentially just 20 minutes of "it's our way or the highway, deal with it." The line, "if we want your input, we will ask for it," period. Really stuck with me though, and it was made abundantly clear afterwards that it was directed at me. The company has had a big problem recently with employee turnover, and I was in the position to know why, since I interact with everyone through my role. Essentially, people are quitting because the work they were doing wasn't what they signed up to do. The phrase, "if I knew this is what I would be doing, I wouldn't have accepted the job," was a common sentiment. They accepted the job under the impression that they would be serving customers, answering emails and phone calls, general customer service stuff, but instead they spend about 90% of their time in a hot warehouse packing online orders over and over again. I shared that with management. I let them know what the people leaving were saying in case they wanted to take that into account moving forward. They just thanked me and I left, but the new manager hated that so much that he decided to make a meeting about giving them unsolicited advice. They spoke with me privately afterwards and referred back to when I told them about what the quitting employees said, and they told me that the way they interpreted that was that I was implying that they were being deceitful when hiring people. I told them, no, I don't think that at all. I was just relaying what those people were saying about how they felt. They didn't care. They doubled down and said again, "if we want your input, we will ask for it, period." That's how I knew it was directed at me. I asked them for clarification, like what constitutes advice or input, and the new boss said, "unless you are asking us a question about the work you're supposed to be doing, we don't want to hear it. We don't want your opinion on how you think we should handle situations. We don't want your ideas on how you think the business can be better run. And we don't want gossip about what other people are saying about us. Just focus on your job." Fine then, I'll roll with that, no problem. I've worked for them for years, and they always appreciated my ideas, opinions, and input until that point, but hey, if they don't want my input anymore, that's their choice, and I'll respect that. I knew it was just the new boss saying that stuff since this sort of attitude with them only started when he did, but the others either agreed with him or were too intimidated to disagree. Either way, whatever, I'll comply with their request. Since then, the problem hasn't been fixed. We've had 2 more people come and go, both of them because they didn't sign up for this. Shocker. A third one started about 5 weeks ago, and he has taken his frustration in a different direction. I've overheard him complaining over and over again to other people about how he didn't sign on to stand around in a hot warehouse for hours packing online orders, but instead of quitting like everyone else, he just got angrier and angrier. And then he hulked out. I was upstairs at my desk when I started to hear smashing. I went down to the warehouse to see what was going on, and this guy was taking customers' packages and smashing them out of frustration. A few others in the warehouse gathered and just watched in amusement. It was like something out of a cartoon. The new boss heard the commotion and came down. Long story short, the guy was fired, and I was asked if I knew why he flipped out. I said, I don't know what happened exactly to cause him to flip out, but I know that for weeks he's been complaining about not signing up to work in a hot warehouse for hours. Maybe he just reached a tipping point about it, not sure. And he said, well, why didn't you tell us? So of course I said, Because last time I told you that employees were complaining about that, you accused me of implying that you were being deceitful when hiring them. Then you told me to stop gossiping. He had to eat crow a bit on that, which was just so fucking delicious to witness. But I was also reprimanded for taking the request too literally, and he accused me of being petty. Whatever though, I don't care, because I had to adjust the stock levels for the goods that had to be replaced, and they lost about $10,000 in the rampage. Some of the items that were smashed worth $2,000 each. Learning that made the whole thing worthwhile. Perhaps enjoying that does make me petty. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.